Why do you suffer? I'm going through a lot right now in my life, and I'm going through a lot of suffering. And I have so many fears that are just being triggered right now in my life. And some of them are like the worst fears that I have since I'm a kid. And others are like fears I didn't know I really had, when just your life is kind of breaking down, and then all of a sudden when your life is breaking down and there's just like stuff that's missing, you realize that you actually liked what you had and you didn't value it when you had it, and now that it's gone, like you see that actually you're really attached to it. And it sounds obvious, but it's not obvious at all until it happens to you. Yeah, like I'm for example, I'm struggling with my health right now in ways I never thought I would. And it's all right, like it's not crazy stuff, but it's super scary for me. And I won't go into details. And like I'm just realizing how much I'm attached to just being healthy, being able to eat normally, to like be able to go for a walk, to have normal energy levels, and to be able to just like feel normal, feel good, not have pain in the body. And yeah, I just realized there's just like so many things in my life right now that are just going away. Like for example, I'm becoming unhealthy for some reason. I'm having like some physical symptoms coming up, and it's just crazy. Then you realize, shit, there's just so much that can go wrong because there's so much I'm attached to, and if like those things I love so much are gone, I'm gonna be miserable. Those can be like your friends, your job, you just maybe like a parent, family member being sick or whatever. And you don't realize that until it's happening. That's the crazy thing, right? It would be so cool if we could appreciate what we have without going through this, like through the challenge of not having it. But that's not how it works, because life is relative. That's what I realized. Life is relative, meaning like life isn't actually relative, life is completely neutral, but like your mind is projecting meaning onto everything, and thus you feel emotions about everything even though you might not like be conscious of it. And so life isn't actually relative, but like life is absolute, but your experience of life is relative. And the reason why is because your experience is based on how you feel, and how you feel is based on how you think about life. And you always have a belief system and a program running in your mind that is interpreting everything around you, like so that you can know whether it's a threat or not, whether it's good for you or not, and how to react to it. And so that's what's relative. It's like this belief system. And so when you feel shitty in your life, it's not because life is shitty, it's because the way you see life is shitty. And that's why you feel bad. And that's the relative like factor that you can actually change. It's just like, it's not, when you hear this first, you're like, oh, I just have to change my beliefs. Awesome. I'm just gonna do that and then I'm gonna be happy. And in a way, yes, but the thing is, you're so attached emotionally to your previous beliefs or to your current belief system that it will create quite a lot of pain to let go of it in order to embrace something new, something like more expanded, less clingy. And so So like I don't even know what I want to say. Shit, it's always the same for me in a video. I just like I just go anywhere. Um and so like your experience of life is relative, so when you feel shitty, actually like you have to realize it's not because life is shitty. It's just because your thinking is creating suffering in you because like and that's why I'm actually making this video. Like the reason why we suffer so much is because we have beliefs around like or that are rooted in distrusting life and the universe. So here's the thing, like me for example, I've always been nervous, anxious in my life, very fearful. And right now, like in the last month in my life, I'm like, certain moments, I'm going crazy. Like I feel super bad. And I just realized like I've been worried for most of my life. But what's funny is like in retrospect, my life and what I've been through has always been okay. And so there have been like all of these moments where I suffered, and the reason why I suffered was that I thought that things would go worse than they actually did, or I thought that what was about to happen was a bad thing when in fact it was a good thing. So I just realized that like I'm basically like you're worried of all the time, but in the present moment when you're being like worried, when you're busy being worried with all of your energy, everything is fine. So there isn't actually a point or a reason to be worried. But what's happening is like you feel a certain way and you think a certain way, and like for me for example it's like this fear that I have in my belly or whatever, and it triggers like so many thoughts. And so what's basically happening is like I'm worried because of thoughts I'm having, but the thoughts I'm having, they're just like being triggered by a negative emotion right now. And so I think that stuff is going to happen, but in fact what I'm thinking is just like a direct consequence directly triggered by the emotion I'm feeling in the present moment. And the emotion can be gone 1 minute later, and then I don't have all these thoughts anymore, and I'm not worried anymore. And so, first off, like you can realize that every time you worry, it's because you distrust life, and you're giving a negative meaning to what's happening to you. And it's completely normal. I do that all the time. It's like a human feature to do that. We're being raised and taught, and we're biologically like entities. We can die, so we always worry because we want to like keep ourselves alive. So that's normal. But it's always based in like a lack belief. Like for me for example, right now I cannot eat a lot, I sleep a lot, I'm losing weight, and I'm like in this weird, I'm having these weird physical symptoms. And I have this already since like June. And so I've been worried since June. You know, ups and downs, sometimes not worried at all, but that something would like really go bad with my physical body, and that I would become anorexic, I would go to the hospital, I'd have to puke or whatever, to take medication, all of my worst fears. And guess what? None of it happened. And when I'm most worried that stuff like that is going to happen, I'm like, but I don't know whether this is really going to happen or not. I'm just making it up in my mind right now. There is like zero reality to it, to what I'm thinking, besides that these are thoughts in my mind. There's like absolutely no connection to reality. It's just about what I think might happen. Okay? And so every time I suffer, it's because I believe that, like, I have this inherent belief that things are going to go wrong and worse. And what's actually happening in life is like most things happen for like a good reason, even though life is neutral. And so, why is that? I believe it is because the nature of life, and I mean, I believe, like, I heard it and it makes sense to me. So, like, life is actually consciousness, and there's stuff happening in consciousness. And so, the goal of life is to expand that consciousness the most, so become more and more conscious, or if life is expressing itself through a being like me, then the goal of life is to increase my own consciousness. And I believe that if I go with that, then if I surrender, then I'm gonna thrive in life. And if I fight against that, I'm gonna be sick and I'm gonna die eventually, not in a second. And that's why some people are being sick and then they die. It's because they are in resistance to the expanding of their consciousness. That's what I believe. So basically, there's already a natural order and like evolution of things, which is based in just like the expanding of consciousness, which kind of like has this natural dynamic that it wants to experience so many things. That's how I think about it. It doesn't really make sense maybe, but and so what I want to say is like life is already inherently positive because of that, if you like surrender and if you go with life. And so if you have this belief and you apply it to everything in your life, then you're gonna suffer way less, because you're gonna realize that everything that's happening to you is not actually bad. You just think it is, and that's why you feel shitty. And if you start trusting the universe, realizing that right now nothing is wrong, you're alive, and even if stuff like happens and you didn't want to, it doesn't mean that it's bad either. It's always all right, you're always there and you're not dying. There are certain people who are dying, but 99% of people who worry, everything is fine in their present moment. The only thing that's happening is like they're having a negative emotion and negative thoughts. But that's okay. It's not killing you. So I think that's why we suffer so much. It's because we have been conditioned to distrust the universe in every way. And so when everything's going, or like when everything is all right in your life and you have basically everything that's happening is not contradicting how you see yourself as a positive being, and how you see life, then you don't think about that stuff too much. But when you're going through shit and things that you really don't want to experience, which is happening to me right now, then you start asking yourself and you realize that like it's just because you distrust life. Like there's so much stuff that happened to me this year that I didn't want to happen at all. I was like fighting against it, didn't even know it. And in the end, it grew me so much, it changed me so much as a person, that I'm actually happy it did happen. So I don't want to go through it again, even though now I've got the tools and the resources to go through it again. So I wouldn't be as afraid, but I don't want to go through it again. What I've been through this year, it would be more boring than scary, actually. You see, so it's okay. And I didn't like it. Like in the moment, sometimes it was horrible. Like I cried. I was sometimes depressed for like hours. But in the end, everything was all right, and the worst was like just a little bit of suffering for a few hours until I just release the negative emotion by observing it and not judging it, releasing the negative energy, and yeah, and then everything was all right. And then this like a small cycle that repeats itself every time you're feeling a negative emotion. So what can you do? Like, there's two things that I like to do, when I suffer a lot, when I'm having all of these negative thoughts, shit. Okay, I can continue, I think. When I'm having all of these negative thoughts, like, what I do is, first off, I remind myself that everything is all right. If this doesn't work, then I go through all the negative scenarios that are happening in my mind, and I'm like, okay, even if this happens, somehow I gotta convince myself that it's gonna be all right. And so I'm like, okay, even if I go to the hospital, it's all right. Even if I throw up and I'm sick for hours, it's all right. I'm not gonna die. And I go also through the emotions that I'm feeling, and I truly feel them, like I observe them as they are arising, and I let really the fear fill up my whole body, and I observe it. And after a while, those emotions, they're just gone, because you have acknowledged them, you have healed them, you have healed a part of your body, and in fact you have also healed the corresponding part in your mind, the belief in your mind and the physical manifestation in your body. And on the long run, that's how you actually become healthy. Because the reason why you're unhealthy and you have blocks in your body and illness is because your body is tensing up and is storing negative emotions. And the negative emotions are like causing your body to constrict, or how do you say, to contract. And as long as you don't release the negative emotion by observing it and feeling it, really feeling it, then like the contraction stays in your body, and everything you do is like just treating the symptom and not the root. So the root of any illness, I believe, is an emotion. So yeah, basically that's why we suffer. Try to trust more, but it's a fucking hard process. It's not easy. It's just, for me, trusting the universe more came with going through so many challenges and realizing it like with time, step by step in every area of my life. But it takes time. And crucial, like, observe your emotions. Go into the body, feel your body, increase your body awareness, and feel the emotions as much as you can. And you realize that then they go away and you feel better. And like, this process is just like, it's like magic. It's amazing. It takes practice to see real results in your life. I think you have to practice this over months and years. But it's like magic, because you can feel so shitty, like, oh, everything's going wrong. You're having these negative thoughts. If you observe the emotion, you let go of it, you acknowledge it. If you do that for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever the emotion, it depends. After that time, you can feel amazing again. And you go up, you're like, hey, life is great. And you just dance, you go for a walk, and everything's fine. So, thanks for listening. And that's it.